Hey there. Um, uh, I can assure you that what I'm about to cover, I would not have been covering with you at 4 years of age or even 6 years of age. But Michael Jake, a former Navy SEAL chief, yeah, and he was. I guess this morning sometime he put a video up and he was showing some a camera eye's view of the Canadian Parliament. So Karen Ann Luke MacDonald, up there in beautiful Canada, um, just incredibly spectacular healing artist up there in that area with Lake Louise and the Canadian Rocky Mountains. With it's wild, right? And so he was showing pictures of the Canadian Parliament. And I mean, this is how ridiculous it actually is. And of course, I've mentioned this for a number of years. uh, the more light that comes in, real living light, not artificial dead light, okay? Real living energy, which means soul, spirit, living spirit energy, okay? Real, absolute, pure light energy, which is the purifiers, which is the purest light. So when you're running 100% light, that's 100% fire. That's eternal spirit fire. Okay. And that means that your light is flashing at the highest rate of speed. That means that AI cannot take a picture of the codes, make a duplicate key to gain entry. Yeah? Right. So intruders don't get the keys. So we know who that is, right? That's your Anunnaki. And your Draco and your intruder alliances down here in lower creation. And so what I mentioned to him was how intimately familiar when he was showing how this guy who is a known war criminal, Nazi war criminal, apparently he's wanted in Poland. And he's getting up there in front of everybody in the Canadian Parliament, parading himself as a Nazi and getting a Nazi salute from the Canadian Parliament. Now, how do you think everybody in Canada is going to feel about that if they were to see that? Knowing that all of their ancestral generations were fighting against the same people that are running their government. Yeah. Well, you can do that with all the governments, okay? Remember 1963 with President John F. Kennedy? He gave that famous speech, although it wasn't that famous in the fact that it hit every newspaper and it went into every mailbox to let everybody know that the entire United States government, which includes every state house, every courthouse, every city, is infested with Nazis. Demons. Okay? I mean, they don't hide themselves with their death head on their cap. Basic logic informs you what they are because they advertise it. So now they're advertising themselves all over the globe. Yeah. Because they cannot help themselves. That's what the light does. It's like my father when I was a child. Put some light on that subject. We will. What do we have here? Observe. Right? Observe. So you know that pure light can map the entire field and let you know everything that is there that isn't real light. And that's a gift. Because that's what protects the shield. The original shield. Pure light is protecting the entire DNA shield of the 15D. Yeah. Because that's what it began with. That's basic logic. Informs us of that. Because basic logic is pure math, which is pure logic, which is the highest speed. And it's got to be the highest speed, right? So it's all equally distributed. So that every filament, every nerve is experiencing perfect balance, which is an equilibrium state with every line of plasma line of communication between field voltage. So we're all experiencing being comfortable, perfectly comfortable, perfectly relaxed, being one. That's full integration. Now we're all experiencing being relaxed. Have fun. The rest of the universe is a playhouse, right? Because there isn't anybody using its energy to go wreck it. Yeah. So that's like the child within us, the innocence of awareness. Yeah. Everywhere I go, the only thing I'm aware of is what love is, which is what I am. Wow, we're all free. That's the point. That's the central point of origin. It's born free. The first eternal star was born free. Because there wasn't anything before that. Which means it never ends. The movie player never ends. The movie is always running simultaneously. Because the one is everywhere, which means love is everywhere. Eternal light is everywhere. You cannot escape it. So it makes it easy to surrender to the one, which is surrender to ourselves, which is to experience what love is, which is forgiveness. Forgiving ourselves. Wow. Now the one is experiencing us surrendering to ourselves, to experience ourselves being one. That's the tough part. Where was that, Mama? Step 3 is getting honest with yourself first. But how does a psychopath that doesn't have a soul surrender itself? It doesn't have an off switch. Right? So you know the energy, which is the consciousness from which it came to be, right? That's where we're at. That's what IP is, right? Information provider, implosion provider. Providing the means in which to implode. That's what their technology does. Right? Implode it. All of our self-destructive technologies, if it doesn't work out for us, it'll just get destroyed. It will just naturally self-destruct. Why? Because it's not in balance. It's not fully integrated to experience what love is. That's what happens with failed technologies. Whoops, I blew that up. Right? The Frankensteins of the universe, they don't know what they're doing, do they? If they did, it wouldn't happen, would it? No errors. pH0 is no errors. That means no errors in the math, which means there are no error codes. There are no idiot lights going off in the motherboard. Letting us know we got ripples. Okay, who's in here? Right? We got something loose in here now. Right? So I guess we got to track it down. Well, imagine you don't have to track anything down. Experiencing the innocence of awareness, which means you're not aware of anything that is feeding on your energy because we're all experiencing what love is. The pure stuff. The real stuff. That's why when I was a child, it was easy to say, wow, hey, you don't need to pretend with us to be something that you're not. Why are you pretending to be something that we're not? Because we can read you. All right, but you got to be careful when you're doing that when you're a small child, right? Who's this little kid? Right? This little kid can read me. That's called reading the strands. It's called reading the strands, the consciousness strands, right? Which really is a read of the resistance and the inability to what? Increase the accretion levels of a capacitor on a motherboard. So when you realize that something's going in the other direction, this isn't something that wants to accrete more levels of light. This is something that wants to implode. Well, you know that's a self-suicide mission, which is sadomasochistic. Why would a unit of consciousness do that? That's an altar. Doesn't know any better. Why? Trauma. The amnesic barrier. I forgot who I am. Now I don't remember who I am. So it's not experiencing any love. So it's been separated from the whole. The first signal. It's not experiencing the first one. That's called lost in space. Lost. Lost souls. That's why we're all here. Is recover the souls. That's what a fully polarity integrated or an oversoul as one does. Pull it all back into the one. Pull it all back into the one. Pull it all back into the one so everyone is experiencing being loved again. And the more units they're experiencing more love or healing everyone else, so we're healing everyone we can as fast as we can without burning everyone up. Yeah. So that's like monitoring the voltage increase over time space. So anyway, thank you for putting that up, Michael. It's going to be... I haven't looked to see what Karen McDonald's is putting up, but I thought, okay, Michael, you put that video up there showing this guy in Parliament, obviously advertising to everybody in the Parliament, and they're all waving with Nazi salutes. You can imagine how the Canadian people are going to feel about this. You know? But I do remember, even though we were aware of this in the 1960s, there used to be an old saying that was sort of passed around the coconut wireless, the grapevine, right? And what was known as Joe Sixpack. These people don't care. You need to understand, as long as they make enough money to be able to sit in front of a TV set eating popcorn, ice cream, potato chips, they don't care. You could tell them that the Nazis are taking over the government, and they're not going to get up and do anything. As long as they got a paycheck, right? And I experienced that firsthand. Remember I told you the story going to work at Rockwell International Space Transportation Group? When they were dumping all that ethyl bad stuff and what that's going to do to a newborn, or if you will, a mother that's drinking stuff out of her water pipe, right? The drinking water in Southern California, what that would do to fetuses. You know what mutagenic and teratogenic effects are, right? On DNA. They don't care. They're inverted, which means their mind doesn't have an off switch to accumulate electrons. That's your AI. They're integrated with AI. Okay? So it's in their self-interest to do what? Suck electrons out of everybody else to maintain what it is they're integrated with, which is the deadlight AI. Okay? And that's the truth of it. So this was always about, when you think of the Emerald Covenant, the redemption contracts, why a lot of them jump ship. Holy shit, this is for real. Exit, right? It's like, if you're willing to honor the contract, then obviously we honor those that are honorable, right? When you honor the one will honor you, right? But you know how it is with a free will universe. Free choices, your choice, your responsibility, your accountability, right? You got to take accountability for the choices that we make. And so they made their choice. Yeah. So you know what happens when checkmate takes place? Whoops. Then it becomes a done deal. So that's the same thing as a rabid dog that's in a corner. When the shields are up. What is it going to do now? It doesn't have any choice but to feed on its own, which is to feed on itself. So it keeps losing more of what it doesn't love, which is itself, because it doesn't have the capacity to do that. That's a deadlight magnet. That means you already know their future. Remember that old saying, you know, what's it called, Mama? Trying to bite off more than you can chew? You know, issuing an edict against the founder races and the one, if you will, is like foolish. Right? Remember what Hillary Clinton said one time? Well, we're going to take the whole house down with us. We can't get our way. You ever experienced that as a little kid? If I can't get my way playing basketball the way I want to play basketball, I'm going to take my ball and go home, which means you're not going to be able to play basketball because I'm the guy with the basketball. Now we're into all the poor me stuff, right? Oh, poor me. And that's how black following and victimizer software kicks into gear. Remember the conversation between Neil and Mr. Smith? I seem to have a connection with you, Neil. It seems to me you were the first. You're the first mainframe. You're the first star, which means you're faster than anybody. I'm artificial intelligence, but I somehow seem to have a connection to you. You came before I did. Remember what happened in the final scene with the Oracle? Called a push. That's checkmate. Because it realizes it didn't come first. We came first. Remember the old comedy routine with Abbott and Costello? Who's on first? No, who's on third? What's on second? Those kind of games, right? Mind bender games. Head games. Harvey Wallbangers. Have a good evening. We love you all. Be good to yourselves.